Welcome, this is Defeater of Souls here, the person who won't tell you his name but just give you his opinions. So today we're going to be talking about two families. That's going to be the natural family and the beast family. Now, the reason why I'm talking about both these families in the same video is that because unlike families like the slime family or the dragon family, these two families haven't always been distinguishable from each other or from other families that we're also going to be looking at today, just because they're small families that came and went in different games. So, let's get started. The very first Dragon Warrior Monsters game. These families were actually split up into about 4 different families, that being the Beast family, the Bird family, the Plant family, and the Bug family, each one of them with their own unique members. However, when you get to Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, they actually introduce a new family that also contains members that would be part of the Natural or Beast family in future games, that being the Water family. In Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, they realized that these multiple families seem a little redundant, so they actually combined them all, so Water, Bug, Plant, Bird, and Beast are all combined into a new family just called the Natural Family, which has the icon of a tree to show that these all exist in nature. This is maintained in Dragon Quest Monsters 2, and although it's in Japanese, I'm assuming it's the same for Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 3. By the time you get to the Dark Prince, they realize there's enough distinction between the Beast monsters and the other members of the Natural family that they split them back apart into the Natural and the Beast family. Now that we know how often each one of these families appeared and their unique appearance history throughout the series, let's take a look at what makes each family different and maybe why they were all separate in the first place. The Beast family will be first, since it is the one that has reappeared in the most recent installment of the franchise, The Dark Prince. The Beast family generally consists of mammalian monsters, such as ones you might know, like the Yeti. The Beast family has very average level, max level that can be obtained, but generally has rather high attack and max HP stats. They have fairly good resistances to anything that might reduce their stats. This is, for example, spells like Sap that would reduce defense, or Slow that would decrease their speed. This, of course, makes the beasts very good physical attackers, as they are hard to weaken, although they can still be weakened with status effects. Birds are up next. Birds, in the early appearances of the series, generally consisted of anything that had wings, which is why that things such as Draki were considered birds in early installments of the series. However, unwinged birds are also here, which is where your average ostrich enemy is still able to appear. They also have a fairly average max level, but their stats are more favorably pointed towards agility, where they're meant to be faster monsters that are able to get things done. Their attack is generally better than their magic attack, although it is fairly equal. Since they're flying enemies, they generally resist wind-based and lightning-based attacks, making them good for fighting any enemy that would have swoosh, although taking them out with swoosh can't be reliable. The bug family generally consists of, well, bugs. Anything that has multiple legs is considered a bug, generally, although there is multiple exceptions. For example, the army crab, which also goes by many other names in future installments, is a crab, and since crabs aren't bugs, he doesn't really have anywhere to go. They didn't put him in the water family, but he is plenty enough bug to be in the bug family. Bugs have fairly lower average max levels, but they level up incredibly quickly. However, as a drawback for that incredibly quick leveling up, their stats are rather disappointing. However, something you can rely on a bug on is status conditions. Bugs generally have a lot of skills which inflict status conditions, and they often resist status conditions as well, making them hard to mute or to put to sleep or to confuse. The plant family consists of anything that belongs to that biological sphere of botany. Plants, of course, include many things that don't as well, such as the toadstool, which is a fungus, and fungi are different from plants, just in case you didn't know that. The plant family also has an average max level, which is generally consistent unless you have things like bugs that are meant to level up quickly. Plants level up at an average rate, but however, they have fairly high max MP, which means they're very good magicians. Although their intelligence is only about average, you can rely on them to have a lot of MP to cast a lot of spells. As a result, spells that exist to fight against mages, such as Odd Dance, which reduces the MP of the opponent, or Fizzle, which would silence an opponent and prevent them from catching magic, are often resisted by the plant family so that the plants can continue to consistently release spells. Finally, the water family is an interesting one because it was only introduced in Dragon Warrior Monsters 2 before disappearing in the next installment. These, of course, include anything that you will find in the water, such as fish, starfish, sea mammals, and so on and so forth. They generally have a high HP stat and an even higher attack stat than the likes of beasts, so it kind of feels like the beasts on steroids. However, as a result, they level up just a bit slower. What you can rely on for the water family is for them to resist water attacks, as it should hopefully be obvious, as it is the water family. What they also resist are fire attacks, so any of the fire-based attacks such as Frizz or Fire Breath will be resisted by members of the water family. That all being said, let's talk about some of maybe the more well-known members in each of these families. Of course, we've talked about a handful when we were going over each family individually, but here's a few more that you might recognize. For example, in the very first one, the introduction of the Orc and of the Saber Cat are both very common and reappear often in the series. Another one that appears often now is the Hammerhood, who is a little more of an ambiguous monster, but is also a member of the Beast family. Another member that reappears often is the Yeti, which also goes by various other names. The plant family has a few other interesting ones. For example, the tree face is one that's reappeared often. So is the fungul, also known as the toadstool. Although he is a mushroom, he does reappear enough to have very consistent appearance in the game. Few other ones that are interesting are the pip fighters. These guys are these tiny little warriors that first appeared in Dragon Quest V, actually, although they reappear in Dragon Quest VII. The bug family has a few interesting ones. In the first one, you have the scorpions, and you have drolls and lunatics, all in which are somewhat consistent in their appearances, although if you need to know whether or not that's true, wait for the shorts that I'll release in good time. A few other ones that have appeared are the army ants, which are, well, just ants. You have the batterflies, which are butterflies. You have the killer pillars, which are caterpillars, etc., etc. Finally, the water family has a few other interesting guys, such as the merman, which is known for being the water family man. You also have the crabbid, which is, depending on your game, either a member of the insect family or the water family. In the original Dragon Warrior Monsters game and Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, it was considered the bug family, even though the water family was a thing. The Man of War reappears often as a recolored heel slime, although they are completely different creatures. And that's pretty much it. So, if you enjoyed this video, let me know. If you feel like I missed anything or there's any members that I probably could have touched up on more, let me know in the comments. I'm sorry it took this long for me to release this video. I was having technological problems. I doubt any of you really care about that. So if there's any video ideas, however, that you have, let me know so I can actually make them. And thank you for watching, and this is Defeater of Souls.